Welcome to United Network News, the official news channel for CARE, the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. I'm Sunny Galt. At UNN, you get the real news. Through our field messengers, we show you the truth about what's really taking place in communities. We also bring you stories to help you remember who you are and why you're here, as well as regional stories that impact the people. And our World Situation Report reveals what's happening throughout the multiverse. We are here to restore Earth. In the U.S., it is Monday, March 18th, 2024. In Nigeria, a local community is protesting their government. They say they are losing their homes and their way of life. And in eastern Uganda, we're getting a closer look at a nearby school. Learn more about their dream of providing an education to help the children. In the New Earth, we're exploring the power behind pure essential oils, including the different ways the oil can be applied.
It's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to all of us. We're UNN, and we're taking back the news.
The way we communicate with one another is changing. Some of us are even starting to talk with people not on this planet. That's what happened to Kelly Bowker. Kelly is a registered nurse and a teacher, and now she can add channeler to that list. Today, she shares with us how these conversations first began. All right, so Kelly is with us on the news today, and we are talking about being a channel and what that means. So Kelly, can you please tell our audience your personal experience with this?
Well, it has been absolutely quite a remarkable journey. It's been only over the last 2 years. I wasn't doing terribly great in life, and it put me on a journey of meditation and prayer and finding myself, who I am, and all that good stuff. And I found myself researching metaphysical issues. And when I dove into that side of the internet, I found the part that was talking about channeling. And how people channel through verbal, but they also channel through writing. And I tried the channeling through writing because I was having remarkable experiences in my meditations. I was seeing things, I was experiencing things. I was feeling touches and that kind of stuff. So I knew things were happening, but I didn't really understand it. So one day I put my phone on my chest, I went into meditation, and I heard in my head, I heard a nudge saying, let the words come, let the words come, let the words come. And I just all of a sudden spontaneously started to talk. And I realized that I was having a dialogue with someone that wasn't me. It was pretty remarkable.
Did you get the feeling that it was a consciousness, like a collective consciousness, or did you think it was a specific being?
It definitely felt like a collective consciousness, and I felt love. I felt when my team first came through to me, I know that there was a lot of what I would call Christ consciousness in it, a great deal of love, a great deal of acceptance and all that kind of stuff. So my journey has been one of, I haven't had teachers. They have said to me they want to be my teacher. I can sit and ask them questions, and I will get the answers. And I record it all on my phone. It's really quite remarkable. It has been a wonderful journey, but really, if you think about what it is to define what is a channel is someone who just can hold space. My job is to be in touch with the human side of me, and that allows me, it's sort of like being able to control that aspect of myself, to control my mind, to control my emotions, and hold space. And literally, it's a channel. If I were doing a one-to-one with you, your higher self would be calling through the answer. People always want to ask me, who do you channel? And my answer to that is, who do I not channel? Because I reach out with the question that is asked to me by whoever I'm working with or myself. I ask a question and I reach. In my heart, I feel like I'm reaching. I reach for the answer and the answer comes through. And the answer is always loving. When people say to me, how do you know? How do you know that you're not making it up? Because trust me, we spend a lot of time as you're developing your own abilities to be a channel. The first thing you're asking yourself is, am I nuts? And am I making it all up? And it takes time and it takes practice. But truly, when you feel the resonance in your own heart, in your own self, you feel the love, you know it is benevolent, loving, light beings that are bringing you the answers to the questions you want to ask. It's pretty remarkable.
Now, it's not a complete takeover of your body. You can still control yourself in this process, right?
Absolutely. Free will is absolute in this dimension. So if I wanted to stop right now, I could stop and walk away and never do it again. Can't picture myself doing that, but I could absolutely. Yep.
Are you surprised that this happened? Like, do you think back and just like, how did I end up here? How did this happen to me?
Oh, I certainly do, because I was raised a Baptist. So Baptist people think that anything to do with channeling is evil. So
Yeah.
I would never have dreamed in a million years this would be something that would have happened to me. But again, when you sit in that love, when you feel that energy in your own physicality, in your own heart, you just know. And it has been a journey of practice and trust and faith and faith.
In Tampa, Florida, a blind music teacher named Matt Weimuller is using his disability to help his students deeply connect to the music they are playing. Drawing on his own personal experiences, he encourages his students to play their instruments from the heart, relying less on sight and more on instinct. His unique approach includes turning off the lights in the classroom. Playing music in the dark mirrors his own daily experiences, including the struggles he faces and how to overcome them. When his students question how they can learn in a darkened classroom, their teacher tells them if he can master the saxophone without sight, they can also learn to play without seeing notes on a page. This inspiring teacher creates an environment where the students build self-esteem and learn to trust their abilities, as well as sharpen and strengthen their listening skills. His passion has transformed his students in positive ways. Some students reveal a shift in their life perspective, understanding that having a disability may create opportunities to develop skills they never could imagine. For this teacher, impacting his students in such a manner is the ultimate validation of his work as an educator. In Burkina Faso, architects are revolutionizing school buildings to be cooler and eco-friendly, despite the country's extreme heat, which can reach up to 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Using local materials such as clay and laterite stone, combined with modern construction techniques, they ensure thermal comfort in buildings without relying on air conditioning. These structures benefit from natural cooling strategies, including the use of raised and extended metal roofs that allow hot air to escape, significantly reducing interior temperatures. Designed with the community in mind, the buildings incorporate elements that ensure privacy and security for students while promoting a better learning environment. Additionally, the use of solar panels supports sustainable energy use, allowing students to charge devices and study after sunset. This architectural approach improves education in Burkina Faso and offers an example of how to build sustainably in hot climates. Middle schools in Bavaria, Germany have been brightening up their classrooms with happiness classes since 2013 with remarkable results. These aren't your typical classes. They're based on positive psychology and growth mindset theory, teaching students to see stress and challenges as opportunities to grow. Techniques such as understanding the psychological stress response and practicing gratitude have led to increased self-confidence, reduced conflicts, and enhanced learning abilities amongst participants. One touching activity involved children making gratitude necklaces, highlighting things they're thankful for, a favorite amongst both students and their teachers. The happiness classes aim to support students' emotional well-being and aspire to make the teaching profession more attractive. Through these classes, students are gaining a set of tools for life, learning the importance of noticing everyday joys and developing a positive outlook. We are United Network News. Every day, we release real stories from real people all over the world.
Phil Messenger reporting from Gold Coast, Australia.
Denmark,
Canada.
Uganda,
From Atlanta in Southern California.
In their own words, people like you share what's really happening in their area. At UNN, you are the news. You are creating a new world with infinite possibilities. You are the restoration plan. Come join us for the real news every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, only on United Network. We're UNN, and we're taking back the news. Now, a look at regional stories around the world. Spanish farmers hit the streets, many of them in their own tractors. They're protesting EU regulations they say are making their products less competitive. Zimbabwe is facing a severe food shortage due to devastating droughts and land reform policies. And now the government may soon declare a state of emergency. In Nigeria, police are cracking down on illegal baby-making factories. They look like medical clinics, but they're really exploiting young women. And the US finally announces a ban on asbestos, a toxin that kills tens of thousands of people every year. In Madrid, thousands of Spanish farmers protested with a caravan of tractors, expressing deep frustration over the European Union, or EU, agricultural regulations. These rules, they claim, increase the cost of farming, making their products less competitive against non-EU imports. The protesters carried signs stating, "We are not delinquents," symbolizing their plea for recognition and support. Despite recent EU concessions to relax some environmental rules, farmers and their unions find the measures insufficient. They are warning of escalating tensions if their plea for more favorable conditions, focused on improving crop quality rather than merely reducing environmental impact, remains unaddressed. The protest marks a continued struggle among Spanish farmers against what they perceive as overwhelming EU bureaucracy. Can I do this again? I can't talk right now. Sorry. Yeah, I don't care. Whatever's easiest. Okay. The protest marks a continued struggle among Spanish farmers against what they perceive as overwhelming EU bureaucracy, demanding fairer prices, less environmental red tape, and increased government support. The financial data provider Bloomberg has launched a new equity index called the Bloomberg France 40, challenging the longstanding dominance of the CAC 40 index by Euronext. This new index lists the 40 largest companies in France based on their market value of publicly traded shares, introducing a slight variation in methodology compared to Euronext's criteria, which also considers trading volumes. This move marks Bloomberg's broader aim to diversify its offering into stocks and other markets, building on its historical strength in bond indexation since 1973. For investors and financial professionals, this development offers an alternative for evaluating the French market's performance, potentially affecting investment strategies and portfolio management. The change is part of Bloomberg's larger effort to cover more than 99% of the global market across various asset classes, aiming to provide more tools for financial decision-making. Unilever, the global consumer goods giant, has announced a major restructuring that includes spinning off its ice cream business and cutting 7,500 jobs worldwide. This move is expected to streamline operations and improve sales and margins, especially since the ice cream sector, which makes up about 16% of Unilever's global sales, has been underperforming. The company aims to complete the division separation by the end of 2025, with the ice cream business moving to Amsterdam. The restructuring will mainly affect office-based positions and is part of the CEO's strategy to revitalize the company. The decision has been met with approval from stakeholders, shareholders, and the market, with Unilever's shares experiencing a noticeable uptick following the announcement. Germany is facing a significant healthcare worker shortage and is turning to the Philippines to recruit more nurses. This move comes as Filipino nurses are increasingly sought after worldwide due to their high level of skill. Currently, about 6,000 Filipino nurses are employed in Germany, with plans underway to increase this number significantly. However, this growing trend has raised concerns about the brain drain phenomenon in the Philippines, where there's already a significant shortage of healthcare workers. Despite the Philippine government's effort to address this issue, many nurses are still opting to work abroad, tempted by the promise of better pay and working conditions. Germany's initiative reflects a broader international demand for Filipino healthcare workers, aggravating the staffing crisis in their home country. In the UK, the health tech company Zoe is under scrutiny for its claims about using continuous glucose monitors and microbiome testing to help people improve their diets and health outcomes. The company's approach, based on combining decades of nutrition research and ongoing studies, aims to provide personalized dietary advice to reduce risks associated with poor diet. However, experts acknowledge the science behind the influence of gut microbiome and blood glucose levels on overall health, and that it's still emerging. Critics argue the company's products could lead to unhealthy eating behaviors, such as unnecessary food restrictions, and in extreme cases, contribute to disordered eating patterns. Zoe contends it is conducting rigorous scientific research and trials to support its methods, and it screens users for a history of eating disorders to mitigate risks. Zimbabwe is facing a severe food shortage crisis, leaving thousands in desperate need due to devastating droughts and historical land reform policies. The country's struggle to achieve self-sufficiency in food production has worsened since 2000 due to the appropriation of white-owned farms, which significantly disrupted agricultural output. Compounded by an El Niño-induced drought affecting several southern African countries, the Zimbabwean government estimates 2.7 million people will experience hunger this year, although actual figures may be higher. The country's main crop, maize, is anticipated to yield only half of its usual harvest. With the government pondering a declaration of a state of emergency, the situation of those affected highlights the urgent need for increased aid and long-term solutions to food insecurity in the region. Gambian lawmakers are considering the repeal of a ban on female genital mutilation, a practice that has been legally penalized in the nation since 2015. Advocates argue this reversal threatens to undermine years of progress in the fight against a procedure that has no medical benefits and can cause severe health complications. Despite significant progress in reducing female genital mutilation's prevalence since the ban, with the first convictions under the law occurring last year, the repeal threatens to undermine those efforts. Critics argue for cultural and religious rights, but many stress the need to prioritize the well-being of women and girls. Human rights organizations warn that it would not only endanger the health and rights of women and girls in Gambia, but could also negatively influence efforts to eliminate the practice in other countries. In Nigeria, a mobile service powered by artificial intelligence, or AI, is changing lives by providing invaluable information to those in remote or financially disadvantaged communities. Developed by Canada's Viamo, this technology grants access to AI without the need for the internet, using traditional mobile networks for simple text or voice commands. It mainly benefits those who are illiterate and cannot afford, sorry, my throat's a mess today. Can I start somewhere in here? Okay. Okay. It mainly, it mainly benefits those who are illiterate or cannot afford internet data. Users, including those with visual impairments, have found this service incredibly valuable, providing them with a sense of empowerment and self-reliance. Viamo's initiative, supported by international development agencies, targets the world's poorest communities, offering them a gateway to critical information on health, nutrition, and more. Nigerian law enforcement officials have recently intensified their crackdown on illegal baby-making factories, rescuing numerous young women and children from such operations. These facilities, often disguised as medical clinics, exploit young females, sometimes through sexual assault, to sell their babies on the black market. This illegal market is fueled by the high demand for male babies among couples unable to have children, with babies being sold for up to $1,250. The phenomenon is primarily attributed to poverty, social stigma, and desperation amongst both the suppliers and the buyers of these newborns. Activists and residents point to economic hardship, moral decay, and societal pressure to produce offspring as contributing factors. Nigerian authorities, citing violations of human and women's rights, have employed legal measures against these practices. In the U.S., the Environmental Protection Agency has announced a ban on chrysotile asbestos. Chrysotile asbestos is known for its fire-resistant properties and is linked to 40,000 annual U.S. deaths from various cancers, including lung cancer and mesothelioma. Despite these being outlawed in more than 50 countries, the U.S. had lagged, with asbestos still found in numerous buildings and homes. The ban targets chrysotile, which is asbestos, primarily used in vehicle brakes and Okay. Hang on. Yeah, I messed up my thing here too. That's okay. The ban targets chrysotile, known as white asbestos, primarily used in vehicle brakes and chlorine production. Industries that still use asbestos are given up to 12 years to phase out its use. However, concerns arise as the ban doesn't cover all asbestos types, posing a potential shift towards other hazardous forms. Canadian businesses are facing increased financial pressures with a notable rise in credit payment delays. That's according to a recent report. The report shows installment loans facing the most significant hike in early and late stage payment delays, with business credit card and line of credit delays also experiencing a slight increase. Compounded by high interest rates, reduced consumer spending, and the weight of pandemic-related loans, businesses are finding it increasingly challenging to stay afloat. The consequences of these financial struggles extend beyond boardrooms and balance sheets. Employees face job insecurity, and consumers could see a reduction in services and higher prices. Alongside these credit issues, there's also been a significant increase in business insolvencies, highlighting the real risks and implications for individuals tied to these economic trends. Also in Canada, the rising cost of living has led to a significant increase in the number of people in Montreal to rely on food banks. The increase in demand is particularly noted at one food bank in the Park Extension neighborhood, where the number of people seeking help has tripled in recent months, with queues extending for hours. Many of those in line are newcomers to Canada, facing language barriers and awaiting work permits. However, the surge in demand has stretched the food bank's resources thin, leading to instances where people wait for hours only to be turned away due to food shortages. In one instance, the situation escalated, requiring police intervention to manage the crowd. This scenario reflects a nationwide crisis as food banks in Canada report a record-setting increase in food bank usage. In New South Wales, Australia, the practice of police searches without warrants has come under fire, sparking community and legal concerns. Statistics reveal high search rates in areas like Liverpool, with Indigenous people disproportionately targeted. Despite criticism and a 2020 Law Enforcement Conduct Commission report condemning many strip searches as unlawful, police defend these tactics as crime reduction measures. However, community voices argue such practices contribute to a distressing overreach, including unnecessary strip searches and excessive force, creating a troubling presumption of guilt. Under current laws, police are granted broad powers to search individuals and vehicles without warrants under specific suspicions. The impact of communities, especially Australia's First Nations people, has led to increased mistrust of law enforcement and sparked debates on policing versus personal freedoms. Uber has agreed to a multi-million-dollar settlement in Australia following a legal battle over its operational practices. The settlement, which marks a significant event, in the ongoing global debate about the rights of gig economy workers, aims to address concerns regarding the employment status of Uber drivers. The Fair Work legislation passed last month seeks to ensure a basic set of rights for gig economy workers, despite not granting them full employee status. Experts argue the settlement and legislative changes might lead Uber to increase fares to cover these new costs, which could ultimately be passed on to customers. Still, the move is seen as a step towards offering gig workers more security, although still not equivalent to full employment rights. In China, small and medium firms are facing persistent payment delays, increasing financial pressures amid economic challenges. The recent survey revealed 62% of respondents experienced overdue payments, a significant increase from the previous year. The survey points to high competition and slowing demand as key reasons for these delays, impacting sectors such as construction the most, with an average payment delay of 84 days. These delayed payments have not only strained the businesses involved, but have also left downstream suppliers unpaid, amplifying the financial strain across the sector. Authorities are urged to take substantive measures to address. Sorry, I gotta back up. Can I just start at authorities? And I've got noise out here, so. Authorities are urged to take substantive measures to address these challenges and restore business confidence. Suggested measures could include better protection of property rights and reducing excessive nationalism that negatively affects the business environment. Some businesses are considering focusing on smaller government-supported projects, hoping for more reliable financial backing. Hong Kong has passed a controversial national security bill, further tightening Beijing's grip on the city's freedoms. The new legislation targets a broad array of offenses, including treason and espionage, threatening severe penalties up to life imprisonment. This law, which follows a similarly strict security law imposed by China in 2020, has sparked concerns about the suppression of freedoms promised under the one country, two systems principle since Hong Kong's return to China from British rule in 1997. Critics argue the law's vague terms could stifle dissent and diminish the city's unique global status, warning it might also impact international relations and businesses. Despite these concerns, Hong Kong officials defend the legislation, comparing it to security laws in countries like the United States and Britain, saying it will ensure stability. China's embassy in Singapore has issued a stern warning against its citizens against engaging in any form of gambling while abroad, emphasizing that such activities go against Chinese laws. This announcement is part of a broader initiative by Beijing to clamp down on gambling by Chinese nationals, particularly in Southeast Asia, a favored holiday destination and a region with numerous casinos. The embassy cautions that despite the legality of casinos in foreign countries, Chinese citizens participating in gambling abroad could face legal repercussions and might not be eligible. Sorry, I can't. They're like right outside my garage door. I can't even think. Okay, I think they're starting to go away. Do you want me to just take it from the VO? Do you want to start from the VO? This announcement is part of a broader initiative by Beijing to clamp down on gambling by Chinese nationals, particularly in Southeast Asia, a favored holiday destination and a region with numerous casinos. The embassy cautions that despite the legality of casinos in foreign countries, Chinese citizens participating in gambling abroad could face legal repercussions and might not be eligible for consular support. Now, the crackdown also aims to mitigate risks associated with cross-border gambling, including fraud, money laundering, and human trafficking. Recent similar advisories were also issued by Chinese diplomats in South Korea and Sri Lanka. China is facing a growing challenge with vast expanses of land turned into graveyards for unwanted electric vehicles, or EVs. This situation arose from the country's massive government-subsidized push to accelerate EV adoption, which led to the production of more cars than the market demanded. Startling images of these graveyards showcase rows upon rows of battery-powered vehicles lying unused, contradicting the initial environmental promise of the EV push. Experts argue the phenomenon is not a failure of capitalism, but rather the result of excessive governmental intervention in the market. driving production without adequate demand. China also faces criticism for its extensive use of child labor in African mines and the environmental toll of rare earth element mining. These mines, crucial for EV battery production, have been linked to significant ecological damage and health hazards for workers. The Bank of Kyoto has initiated e-learning programs for its employees in anticipation of Japan's move away from nearly a decade of negative interest rates. This shift is expected to significantly impact bank operations and the financial activities of its clients, especially for those younger staff members who have never experienced a positive interest rate environment. About 3,300 employees will undergo training sessions that cover the basics of interest rates and their implications for banking practices. This educational push is in direct response to the Bank of Japan's potential increase in short-term interest rates, marking the country's first hike since 2007. The change is poised to challenge both lenders and borrowers to adapt to the new economic landscape, emphasizing the need for improved customer communication and strategic deposit attraction.
Tired of being programmed? At United Network, you'll discover the truth about what's really happening on our planet. Get instant access to our written news, UNN newscasts, world situation reports, and in-depth stories from our field messengers. Manifest your amazing abilities as we explore the new Earth. Plus, original series to inspire and encourage you throughout your day. Get connected through United Chat, our personal chat room where you can join the conversation, share your experience, and also submit your questions for Kim. Watch United Network at home or on the go through your computer, favorite online streaming program, or mobile apps.
Welcome to United Network News.
Start your free trial today. UnitedNetwork.Earth, bringing people together.
Now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Hi, Kim. Welcome to the news. We missed you.
I know, I missed you too. Oh, I would rather be doing news than what I was doing, that's for sure.
I'm sure. Yeah, so what's going on?
Oh, okay. Let's see. What has been going on? So some interesting things have transpired, not only between the deep state, but also we found a few more things that could have been pretty detrimental based on things that were installed long before there ever was a deep state, long before. Now, we talked last week a lot about the events that took place 250,000 years ago, and that there was a planned harvest every 250,000 or so years for a long time. This is not new. You know, we've heard about events like harvest light, such as the Great Flood, and a number of different events that have happened in our known history of the world. But this harvest type event doesn't happen very often. Like I said, it's about 250,000 years. They're spaced out in between. And this would have been a full-on harvest and a wipeout of the planet. So it came to our attention about Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, that of the 11 harvest events that were due to take place, we had successfully removed 9. And there were still 2 hanging out there. And then there are additional events that would have happened after the harvest. So by harvest events with the 11, these are the things that would have wiped out basically all living things on this planet. Yeah. And after the death of everyone within 3 days, then there were 4 subsequent events that would have taken place, and then an additional 3. Unfortunately, and sometimes I wish I would know things ahead of time so we could just get rid of it then and prevent this untenuous situation. But I don't get the information until right about the time things are supposed to heat up or get started. And maybe that's so they don't have enough time to try to recover something. Now, of the 2 remaining events of the portion of the harvest that is meant to wipe out all life on this planet, one of them was to cover the planet in something I call red dust. In our science world, they call it red mercury. It's not exactly red mercury, but it's something similar. It's a compilation of metals that eventually make people go crazy. So part of the reason why they were talking about everybody going crazy during the eclipse is because that would have been the time for this event to take place. Now, how this is created is there was something dormant, which is sometimes when something is dormant, you can't see it, and it's in the Omegaverse. And what was dormant was this, I guess you would call them pockets of this red dust that would have come up through to Earth, through the center of Earth, so Earth's central vortex, and they would have come up through several places on Earth as it would have created a subsequent vortex in all of these locations. I almost felt like when I was looking at all of the events that were due to take place, like, you ever go to an automated car wash and it's like first the soap comes down and it's like, does all the thing. And then, you have the sheet that goes back and forth, and then you have the dryer that comes on, and this was almost like an automated process, just like that. That's why it came to my mind. It was like one thing after another, and as you drive through it, or as we go through these times, and there was nothing humans on this planet were going to do, meaning the elites.
Okay.
There was nothing they were going to do to start it or stop it.
Mhm.
But I will give you the locations where these special places are. Now, some of these places on Earth are places that humans often go to because they know there's a vortex there and they think that it's special and it does have a different type of feeling when you're there. But I can tell you right now, they're special, all right, but not the kind of special you think they are. And a lot of the spiritual places on Earth have the same issue. You know, they're known as special spiritual places, but they're really not to our benefit. And it's kind of a way of tricking humans into bringing about events or opening vortexes, and they try to use your energy to make these things happen. So, okay, so places. It's called the Ennedi, Ennedi Plateau in Chad. And you'll notice when you look at all these places, if you choose to look them up and do your own research, all of them have red rocks. And although the material in those rocks that makes them red isn't what they say it is, it actually are remnants from the last time that this happened.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So then we have the red rocks of Bayanzag and the Gobi Desert. It's Bayanzag. Red Rock State Park in Sedona, Arizona, in the U.S. Red Rock Canyon in Utah. The Valley of Fire in Nevada. The Red Sand Desert in Saudi Arabia. Grand Canyon, United States. Uluru, Australia. Dunes of Namib, Namib Desert in Namibia, Africa. Eastern Desert of Badia in Jordan. It kind of goes through Jordan, Syria, and Iraq, touches all those places. The Red Land of the Camares, Camares in France. The Red Rocks near St. Abbs in Scotland. Lake Lumeria, that's a surprise right there, in Ukraine. It's actually pink. The Atacama Desert Plateau in Chile, spelled Atacama. Mount Sinai in a mountain in Egypt. The Sleeping Sands of the Kalahari Desert in South Africa. And the Valley of the Moon in Argentina. So 18 locations would have been, that's where it would have started, and it would have sprouted out of that vortex like a geyser, almost a reverse vortex. So when you think of a vortex, you think of it kind of sucking everything into the vortex. But this would have been the opposite, and it would have been pushing everything out of the vortex to eventually cover all of planet Earth. So if we hadn't died of the other 10 events of the harvest, then this would have surely gotten all the rest of us. That was the plan.
Have we talked, Kim, about what the other events are, or do you not want to do that because it's too depressing? I just think people, it's kind of interesting what the overall plan was here.
Well, I'll talk about one more of them because that was the one that we actually found that was, I would say, functioning at a capacity of somewhere between 5 to 10%. So it wasn't fully functioning, but I kind of like to call it the Murphy Law situation. So it began actually, and we couldn't really figure out where the frequency was coming from because it was pretty low, like it wasn't real high. It was, you know, just kind of like an underlying current. But it started with a trickle around the 2nd of November. And by trickle, I mean, it's almost like if you put a, you know, if you're cooking lobster or crab, I want to mix those two together, lobster or crab, you can put them in the water, you know, if they're alive when the, with no heat, you know, with cold water, and then slowly turn up the heat. And supposedly that's the better way to cook them. I don't know. I don't eat any of that. So, but it's like a slow boil on the planet. And you probably noticed by, you know, within a couple of weeks of that, you know, you go through these bouts of weird energy, tiredness, uncomfortableness. Murphy's Law, if it could go wrong, it did go wrong. Arguments between people, especially over the last 2 to 3 weeks, people start acting real erratically. They're out of character. Things, their reaction to things is different. And us sensitive people, us more spiritual people, are feeling like you go through rounds of, everything is great. And then all of a sudden, you feel a little dizzy. You feel like you're under an energy attack. If you are aware of those things, you feel that it would be better not to go to sleep because sleep was worse than the waking time. And it just kept increasing and increasing, until it started really getting pretty hot and heavy a few days ago over the weekend, because we were approaching the equinox when most of the harvest events would have gone off. Now, this is why part of the reason why the deep state, or remaining deep state, was all happy with themselves. And, you saw reports of 3 days of darkness and all of this crazy stuff, and we're all going to die. And if we don't die now, we're going to die by the equinox, and stock up on supplies. Well, I can tell you, if this actually had gone off, there was no amount of stocking up on anything that was going to help you.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Like, get goods. Get goods for what?
I don't know. Your final dinner, or what's that when they're going to execute somebody? What do they call
last meal? Final meal, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have needed to stock up for months because it would have been over.
And do you think the deep state realized that they would be going down with the ship too? Or was there a plan to get them off planet?
Sonny, there you go with common sense again. So please don't enter common sense into that.
Right. Exactly.
I want to finish the harvest thing, and then I'll tell you what they thought.
Okay.
And how bad it was. I mean, I was laughing hysterically yesterday. I had to laugh. It's either laugh or cry. So I put a lot of hours in over the weekend based on different other things that would have taken place. So that pretty much, the last two that I mentioned were the last two that we had not gotten, that we had cleared out over the weekend. Okay. And the other ones we had pretty much dismantled just in the course of the cleanup operations, unknowingly that they were harvest events, or they were part of the program. Mm-hmm. Well, the next 4 that would take place are the actual harvest itself. And this is how the lower astral, this has nothing to do with human beings whatsoever, not the deep state, not the Cain families or their dragon families, none of them, although they were aware of what was going to happen, they were not, in part, because you don't tell they needed them to continue to work for a goal. Yeah. However, it had absolutely nothing to do with them staying upright, for sure. Mm-hmm. It was a lie, 100% a lie. Okay, so the next 4 events that would have taken place is we would have seen some vortexes opening in the stratosphere. And this would have taken place within 3 days of the last harvest event, where they kill us all. Then the harvest would have began, because your essence, your energy, your consciousness, all of that remains with you for up to 3 days after your physical body dies. Not always up to 3 days, but that's why they're in certain religions, they don't bury the dead for 3 days. They, and there's a whole thing, if you're cremated, then it leaves immediately. And, there's the cords are cut between yourself and your soul goes back. So that's where all that kind of came from. Okay. But there is some truth to the fact that the soul doesn't actually leave the body for up to 3 days afterwards. Now, this is the time that you would use if you wanted to repair this vessel, in the future. This is the time frame that you would have to jump, or someone to put you in, I guess at that point, into like a med bed type device. Because it's not what they put out on the internet. It's something different, where you can actually revive the dead. Yeah. And that's not just for humans either. It's for all beings coming from the upper astral, all organic beings from the upper astral. So you can actually revive a person that has passed away and repair their body within that time frame. Now, in the future, once we see these types of things coming into operation, then what you'll see is most people never let it get that far. If you want to stay here in this vessel, then, and you can choose to stay or go. It's not a suicide event. It's, well, I've been sitting in the same body for this amount of time. I'm done now. I want to leave it and I want to go somewhere else and get a different vessel, that's more conducive to the atmosphere in that location. So that's why they do it within 3 days, though, because they need to gather all the loosh and all the essence and all the consciousness and all the souls. And they were planning on, now this is the vacuum part of the car wash. This is when they start extracting all of the good stuff, from all us humans and all of life on this planet through these vortexes to the lower astral, which would have re-energized the Omegaverse. So everything they would take from us, they then transmute it and create with it. Now that includes the Omega system, which is, I guess, what the deep state was all excited about. It didn't happen anyway, but we didn't let it get that far. So there's a mechanism that would have existed in the Omegaverse to make those vortexes open in the stratosphere in the first place. That is what the deep state, it's just a sense of entitlement in some cases. So other events would have included all planetary systems, suns, their central star or their sun, like ours is called Sol, S-O-L. They would have extracted all the energy from all of those suns, essentially putting the lights out in every planetary system that the Abraxas et al. Had conquered, including this one, including this galaxy. No sun, no life in that galaxy. So there would have been no more life on any planets within their system. Wow. Now, the main death nest, so to speak, for transfer to the lower astral was in the Orion Nebula. And every single star you see in the constellation of Orion would have been affected, along with us here and several other in the Pleiades, a number of others. So then the giant nest would have opened up within the Orion Nebula and extracted all that energy just so it could transmute it and recreate it in darkness.
Wow.
Yes. So now we have 3 post events. An agreement popped into the Hall of Records unratified, but that did not come from a human. We still have stupid humans trying to register things, and we'll talk about that too. But the agreement that popped in was actually an automated agreement that was an agreement between Cain. We've talked about Cain before. For those of you that read the Bible, Cain killed his brother, cursed by God, forced to roam the planet Earth for an extended period of time before he could actually return back to the lower astral where he came from. He was one of the original lower astral beings. And so this agreement that came through in an automated way from a pocket of time in the 9th density of the lower astral was called Cain's Revenge. Couldn't figure out where it came from. I'm like, Cain's Revenge. That's interesting. So apparently there had been a lot of agreements between Cain, a lower astral being, one of the original humans, anti-humans, so to speak, anti-human version 1.0, just like the Abraxas were. And Cain's revenge was all about the Omegaverse taking over all of Source and all of the Omega Alphaverse where we live. So it was basically the reverse of what Source said several months ago when he said, we're going to go down there and we're going to turn out the lights. Yeah. This was the opposite of that plan, is it was going to come up here and turn out the lights, basically turning all beings into Omegaverse beings and eventually the Alphaverse converting all the way back to an Omegaverse. So these were the plans. in the last 3 events. The first one would have been to install anti-crystalline time. So forever dark time throughout the multiverse. Kind of sounds like what we were doing in the reverse.
Yeah.
The full takeover of the null zone verse. The spaces in between, the neutral, neither source nor anti-source. This would have been neutral. And then the reinstallation of all of their hardware, time machines, and in ways of creation, transmuting all that energy that it just took to the lower astral. So this was the final phase of the harvest that was due to take place. And this would have been after the eclipse. That was the plan. It would have taken a lot of time. It took us a lot of time to get in the other direction. I mean, it's taken, a year or two to get in the other direction, event after event after event. So it would have taken it some time to actually do that too. Now, that no longer is a possibility, but there's a whole mechanism that was behind all of this that we had to find because it wasn't active. It was an inactive pocket of time that hadn't actually fully been created until the last few days. So let's talk about the deep state's perception and what they did. So the Order of the Black Sun, being descendants of Cain, these are Cain splices. Cain actually had served as the parent over the Order of the Black Sun for a long time, till a few thousand years ago, about 1,500 years ago.
As a parent on this planet. So when we talk about the parents, Cain was one of those.
Yep, for a while. Yeah, under the nickname of the Dark Prince.
Oh, good to know.
And then, eventually it was passed down to other parents, that served for the last 1,500 years, something like that. Okay, so the Black Sun's perspective on things was they were now going to be in charge and powerful. Now, this information, again, is knowledge based on an unchanging state of the multiverse. They were apparently given information at some point in time that this was going to happen. It would be for their benefit as the bloodline of Cain, and they were going to be put in charge of this planet. Now, I'm going to tell you from the events that I saw that were about to take place, not including the ones that had already been dismantled, that couldn't be further from the truth.
I know. Yeah.
They could give, and I have to say this in the nicest way I can, not just for you, but also for them. For the love of God, people, if you are listening to this and you believe that you're with the bloodline of Cain and you are part of the Order of the Black Sun in any capacity, and anywhere in the downline of the Order of the Black Sun, no alien race, lower astral or otherwise, could give a rat's beep about you.
Yeah.
They do not want to help you. They do not want to give you power. They do not want to give you control. They wanted you to work like their slaves to corral the cattle, being the rest of us.
And then
that's all they wanted you to do till they don't need you anymore. And they would have wiped you out too.
Yep.
And there's no going back from that. And I watched you idiots at global headquarters, which is no longer, and I can give you all their locations too, that we over the weekend wiped out as well, because this guy's sitting there watching the computer screen getting all excited. Like, look at all this stuff that's going to happen. The frequencies, they're catching on to certain things. And I'm like, you have lost your ever-loving mind. So the reason why the information was being passed down to Homeland Security and all the sheriff's offices and everything was because they were planning for this event. Now, this material, known as red mercury in our science, which is not entirely true, but this material that they were expecting to come up during the eclipse does make people crazy. And if you look up red mercury, it will give you the tip of the iceberg before you eventually drop dead. It's poisoning. It's poison.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like some other poisons that are out there. You've probably heard more about, anthrax and some of the other ones. And they do cyanide poisoning. They do kind of make you a little crazy before you actually die of the poison if you continuously take it. So or it's given to you, I should say. So that's part of the reason why they were reporting all of this stuff, because this was all coming from the Black Sun, who thought that they would be immune or had a special place to run and hide. I can promise you right now that is not the case. No one would have opened the door for you. You were not hiding anywhere. There was no way in God's green earth that you were going to survive this. There's no way. No way you are going to survive this. But that's what they're being told. Kind of like the violin players on the Titanic. Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody just relax. We're going to corral the cattle. Everybody, no problems here. I mean, it was just insane. So the Black Sun, anticipating or remnants of the Black Sun, I should say. So the Silent Circle and the Anti-Silent Circle. And then, of course, Langley 5 and all the ones you know and hate. Basically started convincing on Thursday when they saw these little signals and signs of the ramping up of the events coming from the slow boiling pot that I told you about earlier. They basically convinced the Order of the Dragon to hand over everything they had because they were now going to be in charge, and here is why. So if you want to survive, they told them, this event, then you'll hand over everything you have and we will consider keeping you alive.
Kind of smart move on their part if you're trying to get rid of your enemy. Did they buy it?
Oh, yes, they bought it. It took a couple days. By Saturday, they had convinced them that this was going to be the case. Now, and they had turned over every master key they had to any system. They had turned over all of the deeds for the ownership of the financial system. Now, this is old information. And all of the old stuff for ownership of all the treasuries, ownership of all the Federal Reserve and all its assets, ownership over all of the money flow on the planet when they had it. Oh, yes. Then the Order of the Black Sun was preparing after this time. They handed out PIN codes to a lot of operatives and told them they were going to be in charge of this sector. Congratulations, you're the Lord of War. All of this crazy. They handed out positions and titles and PIN codes, and you can have your own direct access now to all of the financial stuff, to do all the things you need to do. You're going to become our bankers now. You're going to become our this, and so this was in cooperation with remaining members of the global headquarters. And yeah, they had a big plan here of taking over the planet. They even appointed a new person to be in charge of the entire financial system of Earth. He's an Asian man.
Okay, we wouldn't know who he was.
No, you wouldn't know if I told you. Order of the Black Sun, Asian man. Yeah. And of course, other people to take control over other sectors of Earth, that kind of thing, political control, media control. But this guy immediately started barking out a bunch of orders all over the place. He started giving out access codes and all this stuff, he felt was going to be active come today. Well, yesterday afternoon. So the actual time of the equinox this year was 11:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time last night. So they started about 12 hours ahead of time because that's when they feel it's at its peak, 12 hours before, 12 hours after. So between 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or so and 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this morning, they have been, let's just say, nuts.
So what would they actually have control over? In theory, because this is all garbage, okay? But if all the people on the planet were dead, what do you have control? What are you controlling at that point? Is it you're in charge of the new people that are going to be born? Or it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like, why would that be a good thing? Oh, you put me in charge of this region of which there are 0 people there. So what's the benefit?
Well, this is just a wild guess, okay? Because I don't know where they get their knowledge from.
Yeah.
Logically speaking, I would say you would be on a toxic planet to human beings, which they are organic humans. They're not inorganic humans. So the chances and likelihood of them surviving that type of a red mercury attack, or
Right.
the thing that was brewing in the 0 point of Earth, or
Yeah.
the satellites that were connected to it, or the other planets where stuff was coming from, or the giant hole in the sun where it sucked out all of the energy from Sol, our sun,
Mhm.
is zero.
Yeah.
Absolutely zero. You can't exist.
Right.
So as an organic human, which they are all organic humans, crazy, not the best, let's say, poster child for human beings in any way, shape, or form, but
No.
there's no way your vessel would have survived. So if
Yeah.
you thought you were going to do a soul transfer into something else that would have come here, you are so sadly mistaken, because everything in science tells me you'd be dead. I don't care where you went. And if you are on this side of the multiverse, you were in the alphaverse, below the fifth density, you were going to die. And trust me when I tell you, no one above that wants you to come and hang out.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to be
Okay.
invited there. No.
No.
So my impression was they would be in charge of the new life forms, because we've heard about the 7 days of creation in the Bible, and we've talked about it on the news here. Now, imagine the 7 days of reversal creation, just like in the Bible. So they would have then created man. Remember, he created the land, created the skies, saw that it was good, then he rested. Anti-Source was about to do the same thing. That was the plan. So eventually, this side of the multiverse would have been populated, including planet Earth, with anti-humans.
Okay.
And anti-other races that exist here, and anti-animals, and all of the things that we see in an organic way would have been reversed out to an inorganic way. And apparently these amazingly brilliant people thought that they'd be in charge of all of them. I guess the new Earth, their version of new Earth, new anti-Earth,
Anti-Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. So interestingly enough, so that I think that's what they were thinking, but there's no way they could have survived it.
I know. Yeah.
Because if you have no sun, you have no central sun in the center of Earth, no life vortex, no energy coming through. Your vessel, everything in you is going to deteriorate over time. And that's exactly what this thing was in the center of Earth. It was meant to slowly suck the life force out of you. Other major locations for sucking the life force out of you on the planet. Let's see, I do have my notes here. Tucumcari, New Mexico, another major location. The Farah, I think that's how you say it, caves in Egypt. The Farah, Farah, I think it is, caves in Egypt. But there are many other locations on Earth that contained these machines that were going to drain the life force out of you pretty much everywhere. I know, here's a surprise for you: Death Valley, California.
Now we know why it's called Death Valley.
And why they keep saying there's going to be a big earthquake. And there's going to be a big earthquake, 9.2, all the way from Alaska, and on down. There was also a location in Alaska. I was looking for all of the, remember which one we were all going to die of here first. You had Mount Fiji in Japan, was another location. It was just slowly. So if you imagine your essence, energy, consciousness, matter, your physical self degrading, your frequency degrading, and then, of course, any of your connection to source, any wisdom or crystalline time connection would go away. It was just like a vacuum, so it's like maybe going through the car wash in reverse, where it just starts sucking out everything from you. Or maybe the part in the front where they vacuum all your stuff out of your car. You know,
There you go.
that's a powerful vacuum. So there were
It is.
these many different locations on Earth just like this. So there were places in Iceland. I remember the Cave of Wonders in the Dominican Republic, Lake Baikal in Russia. Yeah, Mount Rushmore. Ooh,
Really?
yeah. So of all these different locations, that was the other event that was the slow boil, because it just kept speeding up and speeding up and speeding up until we found it. Another little interesting fact about the caves, how we started to uncover this as to what was going on, because you could feel the life force being drained out from you like several times. Like it would go up and then it would stop, and then it would go up and then it would stop, and it would kind of come in these waves. But it wasn't real intense until, I would say, the last maybe Friday is when it really started ramping up in anticipation for the event on the equinox. So for them, they had to have felt this also, but probably felt it in a positive way. Maybe they thought, oh, it's happening. We're going to be saved or something. I don't know. Let's see. To put it in the words, and this is a quote from one of the people from the Black Sun, he says, there's going to be a spectacular event that will show our power. And we will be in full control by the eclipse. Yeah, you're going to be in full control of something, all right? Death of yourself, and they don't even have to do anything. But for them, what we saw was them, they're like self-entitled silver spoon babies.
It reminds me of the Abraxas. They remind me of the, just remnants of that kind of personality that's just so egotistical. And yeah, like you said, just they're so frustrating. All about themselves.
Well, exactly. See, the aliens love us, so they will do all of this for us. They're going to put us in charge. But this is what happens also in humanity as well, in some ways. And I'm not going to say we're all entitled silver spoon babies and we've had everything handed to us, but in a way, we have allowed ourselves, because don't think you're any better, because we have allowed ourselves to become completely independent on the deep state in every way, in all their creations. Can you think of one aspect of your life where you're not dependent? Perhaps going out on a hike in nature. But if you're wearing your Nike tennis shoes or your Reeboks, or, what are you wearing? What's on your body? Your Under Armour stuff, I'm sure you're probably wearing some clothing, maybe your North Face jacket, if it's cold outside and you're going on a hike or whatever. So don't think you're exempt here. Unless you're one of the rare breed of humans that grows your own cotton and weaves it and makes your own clothes, which are very rare these days.
Yeah.
So you allowed yourselves to become completely dependent on them in every single way. And then you get mad at them when they don't do what you want them to do. Die, leave the planet, stop trying to kill us all of these types of things. So, hey, this is the reason why, we decided to start a marketplace. This is the reason why we decided to do all these other things. So now we can teach you all, and not just us teaching, meaning me personally. I'm talking about all of you on all the different ways that you've become, at least in part, independent, self-sufficient. And then we become interdependent, not codependent people, not on any one person or anything. And we share that life experience with just humanity and not people who want to kill us all by putting poisons in everything. We allowed it to happen. Now we have to fix it. And it's not going to be easy. And it's all part of restoration. And it's your job. It's our job. It's not just my job. And I'm not going to allow it to happen where people look at me like to create all of the different avenues. There's so many people that have said, can you give me a copy of the restoration plan? I've been asked over and over and over for it. No, I won't. No, I'm not going to. And yes, I will set certain parameters of things we recognize that need to be fixed. You could probably do that yourself. You could probably sit down with a pen and a piece of paper or type on the computer or your iPad or however you prefer it and write down all the things that are wrong, all the ways that they take advantage of humans, all the ways that they poison us, and how you could make it better and how it's going to affect everything else. So, yeah, I can do that too. I can also recognize what will work and what's a long-term plan, what's a short-term plan, and we can outline some of those things together. But why would I not listen to all of humanity and what they think too?
Right.
Sometimes, this greatest ideas come from our team. Even just here at UNN, we have a lot of great ideas that we share amongst each other. We're a team. No one works for anybody. It's a good environment. We sometimes the ideas work and sometimes they don't work. And sometimes we have to find a way to execute on those great ideas that come through, and they take time. But, this is what we have to do for the entire world. And it's your responsibility if you're watching this, because, maybe that you're a small percentage of people that actually understands what we're talking about here. So, don't think in some ways you're any better than they are, because in some ways you're not. They become completely and totally dependent on knowledge and information they got from the Abraxas, or they received through old computer systems and old communication lines that has left them completely and totally dependent on someone to just show up with the food, to just show up with the power, to just show up with the glory. They don't have to do anything. All you have to do is tell all the other humans how wonderful you are, and tell the other parts of your deep state that, oh, your Marduk didn't come back on this day. So you know what? Our aliens are going to come back, though. And you'll see there'll be Cain's revenge in our bloodline. They're going to avenge us. And we are going to be in control and all powerful now. How is it going to happen? You couldn't explain it in detail, but now I could sit you down and I could explain for 5 hours or 6 hours every single iota of quantum, let's just say, evil that would have gone into tripping every single trigger that would have made this event happen. I can go into it in detail. So if you guys want to show up here, I'll explain to you what was going to happen. But you don't want to hear what's going to happen. All you want to hear is that yesterday, when you started putting in all your codes, and all your PIN codes of all the operatives they handed them out to, and all the money they thought was going to start coming so they could finish off the harvest, and all their control systems that you thought that the Order of the Dragon turned over to you, like all the deeds to the financial system is one example, all the deeds to all the militaries in the world, and all of the things that they've taken control of, and I'll explain that in a second. And you were given some papers, and then when they went in to verify if you actually did hold the deed to all the treasuries in the world, what did you see, guys? I know what you saw. You saw Kimberly A. Gogan, Guardian. That's what you saw. And it didn't change just because some crazy Asian man said it was going to, or some crazy Khazarian mafia people said it would. They had thought that they had declared victory and ultimate control of the only other people on Earth. They thought that were as in much of a controlled position of the planet as they were. They thought they had won. Until yesterday, you figured out that nothing got transferred into your name. We even had people calling the zones, like Durango, where I live, basically telling these people that they're now in charge. And they said, I'm sorry, I'm in the intelligence and military system, and it says GIA is in control of this zone.
Yeah.
Still, nothing's changed. What's your name? Bob? Bob? No, Bob. No, Bob here. But the threats are looming large from these people because all the control they were told that they would have by today, starting today, none of it happened. Not a gosh darn thing. And I can assure you, over my and don't even get any bright ideas, guys, over my dead body will any of this plan ever come to fruition.
So do they realize now that it's not going to happen, or are they still holding out for something until the end of the day, or do they realize what happened?
Do they realize they didn't get any access? Some of them have at the time of this recording. So I would say some of them that received their PIN codes and all of this, the ones that didn't work yesterday, they said, oh, you know, the whatever is tonight at 11:09 p.m. Eastern time, why don't we give it to the full, 12 hours after? Maybe it takes time for this to take effect. Again, see, this is what happens when you wait for someone else to solve your problems for you. Yeah. Again, I mean, look at the position that they're in now.
Mm-hmm.
They've given out all this false information to a bunch of very, let's just say, well, I would call them extremely dangerous people in some ways. And in other ways, I would say, well, so far, they've basically yielded 90% of them anyway to every single thing they say, even though they've been released. They can't stop.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be released from the deep state. Are you going to stop? Are you going to stop buying that shampoo or that, car or this, whatever? No, you're going to go buy more of it when you get your money. You will. You will. You're going to still support them. And I'm not saying that, there's no other option right now, but the idea behind this is to make other options in every single facet of our life. If we do not build a new system, we're going to be the same weirdo people like they are right now, waiting for Kim or some alien or source or someone to come fix it for you.
Yeah.
Can't. Sorry. Yes, we have kids that are dependents. They're young children. They need to grow up, and it's our responsibility to raise them, and that's not their fault. But as far as us adults that are watching this, those that are capable, teenagers, I mean, I've seen some brilliant scientists that are 12, 13, 14 years old that should have won a Nobel Peace Prize for some of the stuff that they created. These people are out there. Gen Z is not like Gen X. We're all different. But we all need to respect each other, work together, and not just say because, dad said no because I said no, or, mom said no because we said no. Well, that sounds wonderful, and then you just brush off their science project that could actually have been, technology that can rival Elon Musk, because that's not his technology either. He gets that from other people.
The real Elon, because I don't think he's creating anything.
No, he's not. He's getting stuff passed down to him too, which is why he looks like an idiot when he tries to use a machine to get people out of a cave over in Asia, and it doesn't fit in the hole. How could you not know that it doesn't fit in the hole?
Not the brightest bulb in the bunch.
That's because it's not your technology. Neither is the Hyperloop train technology, which is why it's not working. No one ever gave them all the information. By 1998, those others that were forced to work in the deep underground military bases, also known as DUM, had stopped sharing full data because, number one, they could see that there was freedom in sight.
Yep.
But number two, I don't think that they ever gave them all of the technological advice that they possibly could have. By the time that 1998 rolled around, they saw something else coming. Mm-hmm. And they just never gave you the final piece, the final key. They would reverse halfway engineer technologies to screw you up. And then now you try to build this train and you don't understand why it doesn't work. Elon was supposed to be the new Stephen Hawking, who was the new Einstein, and who was the new this, and on down throughout history of alleged creations that none of them actually created. None. So, no, you're right. But it's the same. It's the way of the deep state. The people that run Heinz Ketchup today are not the people that started Heinz Ketchup and never squeezed a tomato. It probably wouldn't know a tomato if it smacked them in the head. Or how to manufacture it properly. They just put all the chemicals and stuff in there that they're told to put in there, and they just somehow keep pumping up something that resembles a ketchup flavored item in the store, which is nothing like it was 4 or 5 decades ago.
Yeah.
We need to do it better. We need to teach our kids better, our young adults better. We need to change it. We need to fix the system, because if we don't, we're going to go right back into feeding all their businesses and everything, and they're still going to live a very happy, healthy, wealthy life,
Right.
feeding on all of us. So, and then you'll still be working 40 hours a week instead of a comfortable family life balance week, doing something you're passionate about and that you love. So there's a lot more to restoration here than just, well, Kim, let me just slide my card across your lips like an ATM machine and you spit out money and then we're all better. Everything will be fine then. No, it won't be fine. No, it's not going to be just fine. And these people going crazy right now, okay, well, that's a part of it. We need them to go a little crazy. We need them to realize nothing will happen. They're going to continue to go crazy and expect certain things to happen between now and the solar eclipse. And when none of that happens, except a bunch of people stood outside, and watched whatever go overhead, and some kids got the day off school because they don't want them out in the dark, which is also ridiculous. If you happen to be in the direct line of sight, but that's okay because kids never go out in the dark. I mean, like never. Oh, especially teenagers. They don't go out in the dark ever. Having raised one. Yeah, no, she always in by sunset. Surely. She turned into a pumpkin. They think this is like Cinderella and that's what all of humanity is. But another disappointment for the deep state, another giant step forward for humanity. Another nail in the coffin of what's left of them. And the good news, folks, is they showed us something important this weekend. From a strategic standpoint, what I saw is a bunch of people that read old stories, old knowledge, which is not the same as current wisdom. And they just sit there with their hands in the air and just wait for everybody to do it for them. So the good news is, as long as we make sure that there's nothing out there that does it, whatever it is, for them, then they're just going to lay there with their, whatever, put on their party hat every full moon or something like that, just waiting for everyone and everything else to do it for them. That's an important thing to understand.
Yeah.
Can they order a war? Can they order someone to use antiquated guns and things like that? Well, as long as they've got money to pay for it. You can only play the tomorrow game so far before weapons manufacturers go out of business. It's only a matter of time. You guys aren't probably buying a significant amount of armaments, especially not military grade armaments. You might have a gun in your home, whatever. Maybe you have 20, maybe you've got a whole gun cabinet. You're a gun collector. That's still not enough to keep the military industrial complex in business.
No.
I mean, you're talking truckloads, like garbage truck size loads of ammunition. And in your lifetime, even if you go to the range every day, you're not going to use a giant garbage truck load full of a ton of ammo. And even if it's a hobby of yours, even if you are living in an area where there's war or there's a situation going on where you have to carry a gun, no, as a one human or even a million humans that have guns or 10 million humans that have guns, you're not going to use that much. They're going to go out of business. Mm-hmm. You can only kick the can so long before, you can't issue bonds. Now, let's talk about things that they thought that they were transferring over. So we were well aware of the fact that they owned, for example, all of the militaries in the world. Mm-hmm. Now, when the United States military, and before that it was the British, and after that it was supposed to be China, goes in and there's a war that happens. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes in different parts of the world, not as much, obviously in the United States, but the UN tried in the United States. And but in other parts of the world, you'll actually see United States Department of Defense owned property. I've seen those signs. I actually have pictures of some of those signs I could probably post on in our community. But they actually take over the property. They do their job. They buy the weapons from the weapons manufacturers, make sure that they can take control of it. This is the situation, for example, in the area between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. That's been going on forever, courtesy of the Clintons. But they go in, so they buy all the weapons to support the military industrial complex. They go in, take over the property. They declare it theirs. They issue a bond against it. And it now becomes Department of Defense land. Now there's an upchain from there. That bond then gets transferred to the military owners of the world as they know it, which would have been at the time the Order of the Dragon families, because they are the financiers of all of these different aspects of human life on this planet in our system, our deep state system. Then the Rothschilds, behind their back, would have transferred that bond to the Alpha system. Money would have come out to Rothschilds, eventually down to the Federal Reserve, and then eventually over to the Department of Defense. For doing such a good job, they paid out against the bond for the acquired property that they stole for free.
Right.
And then they would go on to acquiring the next property. It's the same thing that Langley does. And it's the same thing China's been doing for the last several years, starting somewhat, not in totality, but in 1975, when they were told they would be taking over as the world's global headquarters. If you are in Africa, then you well have seen the Chinese go over and try to issue bonds against all your in-ground assets and your rare earth minerals and all of these things to no avail. Because even though they'd pass it up through to the Rothschild family, nothing is coming out the other end. So as far as all the old bonds are concerned, they were already in the Alpha system. All I had to do was just bleed it all out this weekend into the main system over every single part of land. The same thing goes for you and your money, you and your energy, you and your system. There was still some remnants of things that gave them a glimmer of hope, even though they didn't have access to it when they could see these things. And this is what the Black Sun was hoping for, a total turnover over, because they were under the impression that the buck stopped with the Order of the Dragon, Illuminati, Rothschild family, Khazarian Mafia, AKA Red Dragon, Purple Dragon, Blue Dragon, whatever, families that they thought were in charge and held title to all of this enormous amount of power and wealth in their mind. But in reality, no, boys and girls, they had actually transferred every single one of those bonds and everything attached to it over to the Alpha system a long time ago. The second that it occurred and you acquired that property, it went over directly to me.
Wow. Okay.
Well, my predecessor at the time, but it still went into the system.
So is it too early to understand now the relationship and if it's changed between the Order of the Dragon and the Black Sun? Because the Black Sun kind of conned them a little bit. They thought something was going to happen. It didn't happen. Do you see any kind of retaliation, or where do you see the power?
Well, and they kind of conned them too, because they handed over all these master keys to a computer system that haven't worked since 2007.
Right. And they probably didn't say, oh, by the way, these don't work.
Yeah, but you can give them a try. Of course not. They bargained with their life. They said, oh, no, we'll turn it all over to you. Oh, yeah, we'll turn over the deed to the financial system. That's not your system. There's no access to that closed loop. The name never changed. And, oh, it's me. It's still me. And to further add salt in the wounds yesterday, I didn't think with all the chaos that we were going to be successful in a transfer yesterday, but I did it several times. Still Kim, still coming out, still my system. Ha, see, no access to anything. I haven't been doing it today yet, but I have been doing it, the whole time.
Yeah.
So once they figured out, it's now me. It's me in there. It's me, the ownership of that. It's me, the ownership of this. It's me still with the Alpha system and all the money won, not crazy Asian guy over there. Nope. You can declare yourself Mary Poppins, but that doesn't mean you can fly with an umbrella, right, Sonny?
Yeah.
So, yep. So today, at least within about 10 minutes before I started recording the news, they were trying to install Trump bucks again. So apparently they have figured out there's no money won, no control over the financial system, no access to anything, no ownership of anything. So they've got nothing, and no aliens are coming to save them. Thanks.
But they're still holding out for the eclipse. What was it? The 8th? April 8th? Is that what we said?
Yeah, they'll probably still wait to see if there's anything else coming. Yeah, but today being the equinox, they expected their rain, so to speak. Well,
Was it yesterday? Yesterday was
well
eclipse.
last night at 11:09
Oh, that was the
Eastern
official
time is the exact time. So 12 hours before, 12 hours after, they figure is prime time for all the power to just flood into their person.
Okay.
So
Whoops. Didn't turn out as expected.
no, and the closer, you get to 12 hours after, and then, well, maybe it's 24 hours after, we'll probably play this game for a little while. Maybe it has to be the full moon, which is on the 25th, which is a partial lunar eclipse. I don't know which eclipse they're talking about. I don't know if it's the 25th of March one.
They'll take anything they can get.
Well, I think they're expecting something to happen on the March 25th full moon, partial lunar eclipse. And the reason why I say that is because the Q clock is now saying the 28th. So usually they figure the effects of a full moon last up till 3 days after.
Okay.
So I think we're all going to die again, according to the Q people, by the 28th of March. That's what they're saying. So
they're not really good at predicting the future. They need to find another job.
Again, old knowledge, and you just sit there and wait for it to happen because somebody wrote it in a book. That's like us all living by Notre Dame's prophecies or something, where, it says, the something flowers bloom on this day. And if there's you go out there and you try to open a flower shop based on that prediction from, 500 years ago, and you're disappointed that there's no flowers in the spot where he said, there's now you went and leased some space, opened a flower shop, expecting to go get the rarest flowers in the world in this particular location because Notre Dame said it. 500 years have passed. A lot of people have walked on that land. There's a lot of seeds. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in that spot. I mean, even over the weekend, in the last 72 hours, well, I've been talking to you guys since Friday. So in the last 4 or 5 days, a lot has changed.
Yeah.
They're still sitting there thinking they're going to be the kings of the world for some reason. But the good news is that they appear to be sitting and doing absolutely nothing to make it happen. So that's good for us.
Yeah.
That is good news for us, because then all we have to do is make sure that nothing else could actually spark something, And they can continue to get their people to talk crap on TV for free. Eventually all of the gun manufacturers are going to go out of business when they can't pay, as long as we don't keep feeding them and we have alternatives to feed ourselves. And the regular, humanity companies, that we open and all those types of things. And, they'll become they're not relevant anymore.
Yeah, obsolete. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's up to you. Sorry, it's not up to me, but it's up to you and us, I guess, in some ways. So, yeah. So a huge step forward for humanity.
Absolutely. Do we have an update? I don't know if you're done with the general stuff, but I was going to ask for an update on the marketplace, because we keep talking about stuff, but we haven't really talked about the status and when we think things will be released.
Well, we're trying to, it's pretty much running right now. The only issue that we're having is with trying to make it easy for all the shop owners in all the countries of the world to try to have just where it says, congratulations, you sold a pair of socks. And it just emails you a label so that you can just print it.
Yeah.
And getting it to coordinate with the checkout. in the marketplace. So that's been the biggest stopping point right there, where we may not be able to do that right away. If we do, then we can launch the marketplace tomorrow. Update on the oils and other supplements we're looking at. We should be shipping out by the end of this weekend to the fulfillment and being able to offer them online.
Okay.
So that should be good. At least get some inventory started. But we have everything. We've been working a lot on different blends and things to help out people, make it easy, that kind of stuff too. So, yeah, we have all the stock, we have all the stuff. We're just making sure that we have everything in place to make sure that we can ship out to all the corners of the world. Because I know I've had people from Australia asking, I've had people from Europe asking, and we need to make sure we can get enough stock in all those locations. Sure. So we should be able to do that. They should stock us within a week. So hopefully by the first week in April, we should be able to start shipping.
And that's for the essential oils.
Yep. Yep. And the New Earth section. We do have a couple of other supplements that we're probably going to start with, but it'll be about 4 weeks before we can start getting those in stock. But a couple of things that came to mind right away that I think we need is a good amino acid supplement. I know that they had perfect aminos, which are pretty decent. But we've been looking at a couple of other formulas of our own that we're going to, we should have ready. And probably it'll take about 4 weeks before we're ready to start shipping on those. We also have a human growth hormone, or HGH, not an actual HGH, human growth hormone replacement, which obviously is a naturopathic doctor kind of thing, or a doctor type thing, because there are certain people that shouldn't use the actual human growth hormone, like people that have survived cancer in the past and other things like that. But human growth hormone, by the time you turn age 35, you are on the decline. And this is what causes, as you get older, tough sleep. It also makes it more difficult to lose weight. It's it causes so many other issues with the body. So we thought, as an overall wellness product, an enhancer, which is basically a combination of amino acids that exist within your body that tells your body, hey, make some. So it's just something that says, no, I understand you're 35 or 40 or 60 or however old you are, but you know what? You need to make some of this. We need at least some. It's a healthier way to do it. And it yields you so many physical benefits. So these are the things that we are formulating behind the scenes, but it's a process for sure. None of this is happening overnight, but we've put a lot of work and effort into it. In addition to the 9,000 jobs I did this weekend. So not much happened over the weekend in those arenas, I can tell you that. But a few hours a day here and there, I can definitely put that kind of stuff in to make sure that we do it right.
Good.
So, yeah. And that's your update. So we'll probably make a decision in the coming days as far as, if we're just going to make it a self-ship situation, because we have yet, we're trying some other ones that we had discovered over the last couple of days too, to see if we could find any way possible to accommodate. It's one thing if you're just a US based online purchasing, but we can't leave out the rest of the world, and that would be unfair. So, we can collect the shipping charges and calculate shipping from your location to, where you're shipping it to, but it's difficult to find a company that doesn't want you to open your own individual account for shipping. So, even though the customer's paying for it or, whatever, maybe that's a better way to go for now, so we can just get it launched and get it started.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to tweak this thing forever.
I know.
Improve it. And so But I
maybe when we
understand.
grow up, we can hire somebody that can do it better. I don't know, but right now, we're doing the best we can with what is available out there. Because a lot of these things are plug-in applications you plug into your store, and we just haven't found one that does it the way that we want to do it. I'm sure someone created one because they do exist for other marketplaces.
Right.
But I also think it's part of the reason why you see, like, even large marketplaces like Amazon. If you are in Europe, you'll be purchasing from the UK or the Spain site. It has a different Australia. You'll be purchasing from a different site. It's actually a different landing page. You don't see the same one we see in America. Latin America as well. So they have several different locations in the world, and each one houses its own set. And there are a few that do global, but if you're a global seller on Amazon, then you have to sign up for them all. And that could be the reason why they do it that way.
Yeah.
Because no one yet has gotten creative enough to do automated shipping, for all your marketplace owners worldwide. With so many possible options, I don't know why you wouldn't choose a fulfillment partner that's able to do that, but
Yeah.
We'll see.
Something else that needs improved.
Something else that needs improvement, but
Add
that's
it to
probably
the
6 months of
list.
coding if I can't find one that's already pre-built. So,
Exactly.
and that's where we're at, Miss Sunny.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ken. It was good to see you today or hear from you today.
Good to hear from you too.
Want to share news from UNN? Help us change the face of social media and use it for good. Connect with us through our online channels. Our social media team creates clips from each newscast you can easily share with the people you care about. That's also where you'll find our UNN meme of the day. It's a great way to encourage critical thinking. Links to all of our social media sites are available at the bottom of our website at unitednetwork.earth. Let's change the face of news together. And that wraps up today's news update. Please share UNN with your friends and family. We need everyone to come together and help restore our planet. When news happens in your area, record it and share it with us so we can help you share it with the world. Remember, if it's going to be, it's up to me. I'm Sunny Galt. Join us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the real news.